This is the first weekly video for Project Wayne in 2025. It's going to be a relatively short video just because I made a video earlier this week going over my goals for 2025 and some changes that are going to happen with the project going forward. So most of this is going to be about finance because that is what phase I am in right now of the project. And that's essentially mostly what I worked on this week. So what Project Wayne is about is becoming a polymath such as Bruce Wayne or Batman. And what a polymath is someone that excels in multiple different fields. For example, one of my favorite examples is Johnny Kim, a Harvard-educated doctor who went to Harvard medical school, but before that he was a Navy SEAL. He also got his bachelor's in mathematics, and is now an astronaut. So it's like he's lived 3+ lifetimes, and I think he's only 41, maybe somewhere around there. But I think he accomplished all this by the time he was 36, 7, 38 maybe. So he's a really good example of what I'm trying to become. So I'm just going to go over in this video some current progress I made this week, which like I said, is mostly finance related. As I've talked about in previous videos, I've kind of identified 2 phases so far to becoming Bruce Wayne. One is finance. The biggest difference between a normal person and Bruce Wayne is that he has all this disposable income, which allows him to essentially just do whatever he wants all the time, just because he doesn't have to work a 9 to 5. So phase 1 of the project is devoted to becoming financially independent. So for me, what that looks like is amassing $1.25 million and having that invested, following the rules of FIRE or financial independence, retire early, having all that invested, withdrawing at a rate of 4%, which would be $500,000 or $50,000 a year, which is way more than I actually spend in a year. So just based on that, if I spend less than that $50,000, then in a couple of years, in a decade or so, I'll be at 2 million, 3 million, 4 million by not even working a real job. So just by having a budget and living below my salary of 50,000, which I'll be significantly living below, maybe not even reaching half of that per year, I'll be able to grow my portfolio and get more and more principal over time. And then the second phase, which starts as soon as I achieve financial independence, hopefully by the time I'm 30. For reference, I'm 23 right now. I started the project, I think, when I was 21, when I was a junior in college. I've since graduated this year, so I think that was 2 years ago, in 2022 or 23. Phase 2 will begin as soon as I reach that FIRE target, $1.25 million, and I'm able to go back to school and continue learning in subjects such as electrical engineering, finishing pre-med. I was a pre-med student, but I didn't finish because I picked it up late, and I double majored, so I wasn't able to handle all that. So I was only able to go through about a third or a fourth of the pre-med courses. So I want to finish that and then go back and get like an electrical engineering degree as well. And I'll talk about that in a different video. So for this week's progress, a lot of it was to do with finance, but especially credit cards. It was 3 months since I opened up my last Amex Platinum. Because I am in the military, I am able to open up these Amex cards, with no annual fee. Otherwise, they usually cost you, I think it's $6.95 per month. I apologize if my voice sounds a little lispy. It's because I have my Invisalign in. I was going to go to sleep, but then I realized I should probably start off the year by actually uploading on the first Saturday that I said I was going to. So got out of bed, and that's why I have them in right now. So I apologize about that. But so I opened up another plat, and the reason why I did that is because even though I don't really plan on actually swiping that other platinum card, I can use that other card's benefits. For example, it gives me Uber Eats credits, so even though that's not really something I really use, if it's free food, I'll take it. It lowers my expenses. Now I get $15 from both my plats and the gold card, so I have $30 from the plats plus 10 for $40 total every month of free food. I'm also able to redeem $200 a year, which I've already redeemed, for flights, which I convert into United Airlines points. And they have a program called the United Travel Bank that you can just essentially convert the bonus into a different currency, which then kind of just sits in their own bank. They call it United Travel Bank, and it lasts, I think, 5 years before expiring. So even though I don't plan on taking any flights now, I probably will be, hopefully, when I'm in phase 2 of the project, which is moving around the world, going under different educations, and learning from different mentors. So I've already been taking advantage of those benefits, and then I've also been thinking about how to use good debt to increase and grow my wealth so I can start phase 2 sooner. But before I talk about that, I also want to quickly touch on the Chase hotel points. So I've been staying in a hotel for the past couple months, and I opened up a card, which was also waived by the military, that allowed me to boost up the points that I was earning here. So instead of getting like 20,000 points, I ended up getting a little under 250,000 points. So when I'm traveling around in phase 2, I can use these credits and stay at different locations at hotels for free, essentially. My kind of vision for phase 2, besides when I'm at actual universities, when I'm in kind of unformal education, for example, in the comics it says Bruce Wayne learned from criminals. That's not really a formal education. When I'm kind of doing something like that, probably not from criminals, but maybe I'm just meeting up with a person who has a specific thing I want to learn from, not necessarily a formal education. I might be staying in a hotel, and I'm kind of seeing this looking like Reacher's lifestyle. If you've ever watched Reacher with Tom Cruise or Alan Richardson, where he's a retired Army major who is an MP, so he has a decent pension, he has money, he just chooses to be homeless and he moves around, kind of like an American Ronin. He's already served his master and now he's just wandering around doing whatever he wants. That's kind of how I see the informal education lifestyle kind of happening in phase 2. Kind of seeing how it is to live like that, without all the all the amenities that I have now. Like for the past couple of months, I've staying in a hotel and I have breakfast made for me and people come in and clean my room and everything. It's kind of experienced what that's not like. I mean, I know what that's not like, but what even less than normal living is like. So that's kind of how I envision some of that informal education lifestyle kind of looking like. And then I'll be using resources that I built up in phase 1 to help me facilitate phase 2 by further decreasing the expenses. And so I mentioned I started thinking about more ways to use good debt to grow wealth. One of the things that I used to jumpstart my portfolio is I was able to get a loan for $25,000 at a 2.99 interest rate when I graduated for people joining the military, and I knew I was going to be able to make the payments on that because it's kind of hard to be fired from the military. You kind of have to be really trying to be fired. And if you did get fired, you'd have a lot bigger problems than paying back a loan. But I knew I would have a steady source of income, so I knew if I lost the entire principal of the loan, I'd be able to make the monthly payments even though I lost everything. So I took that and I invested it, and I did some of my research before I invested it, but mostly I'm not a genius. I kind of got lucky. I ended up picking Palantir. I bought in when it was about $22.55, and currently I think it's at $79.89 or $78.89. So that was how I was able to boost my portfolio up. I had a small portfolio before then, and it grew exponentially from that. So even though that was luck, the kind of strategy that I used can still be replicated as long as I'm able to service the loans if everything turns for the worst. So what I've been trying to figure out this week is how I can get other loans to use other people's money at a cheap rate in order to increase my own wealth. And the big caveat here is that because I keep all my other expenses low and I have an extremely secure job, I can always make a minimum amount of payments, I shouldn't say minimum, a certain amount of payments on the principal of these loans. So even if I were to lose everything that I invested in something, then I would still be able to pay back the service charges every month on the loan. That's the big caveat here. I'm not investing money that I wouldn't be able to pay back. I wouldn't really be interested in doing that. But this way I'm able to get in my money into the market at an earlier point. And so in order to do this, like I said, the entire idea is using good debt to increase my wealth. And how do I get preferential rates for loans so that it's actually worth my time and I'm actually able to service the loans? I need to have good credit, and I have decent credit, but I want to increase it more, and my credit score has gone down just because I've opened up so many credit cards. So I need to work on building my credit back up. So because I opened so many cards recently, for example, the Freedom Flex, the Freedom Unlimited, the IHG Rewards card, that's from Chase, the Blue Cash Preferred from Amex, the Hilton Honors from Amex, the Charles Schwab Platinum from Amex, the Vanilla Amex Platinum, the Amex Green, and the Amex Gold. And I think that's most of the cards I opened up. Because I opened up so many cards, my score went down temporarily, even though I've never missed a payment on any of the credit cards I already had before. So what I started thinking of this week is I need to make sure I'm making at least one payment on each credit card, so that I have the optimal amount of usage, so it's not zero, but it's not super high, so that I can start rebuilding my credit to get more preferential rates on loans, so that I can use those loans to invest safely, with the big caveat that I'm able to make those service payments on the loan even if I lost the entire principal in whatever investment I made. So that's what I've been doing this week, and I already made small little purchases, just essential stuff that I needed. I'm not spending any more money than I would normally spend. I'm only spreading my spend out throughout multiple cards, which actually is a little bit hard just because I spend so little money. I try and be as frugal as possible so I have more money to invest and hit that goal faster. So yeah, and then another thing I did is I made notifications on Google Calendar, something that I've talked about in some of my previous videos, which I'm trying to use Google Calendar more. So every single day on my daily itinerary, which I have on Notion, I check on Notion, it says check my Google Calendar. So I go in Google Calendar and I look and I see what if there's anything happening for the day, and then it'll say something like, make sure I use my Freedom Flex from Chase, so that I have higher than a 0% utilization for the month. And then over time, since I'm making all these small little purchases on all these cards and automatically paying them off at the end of the month, it'll help snowball my credit back up to where it was. Not that it dropped a whole lot, but then go even higher, so that I'm able to get offers for personal loans or other types of loans at preferential rates that I can then use to invest. So yeah, I just basically want to build up relationships with the banks so that I can get better loans at lower rates. And then I also have notifications in my calendar to apply for credit line increases. I put them at once a month. I'm not really sure how often I should be doing that. I'm not sure whether my income needs to increase or if it's just my credit score at this point. But right now I have that for once every month to apply for credit line increases on my cards. And then the only other thing I kind of did this week that's worth mentioning is, that's unrelated to finance, is I started using Clockify again to record my CPA study time. And I think I did around 4 or 5 hours total this week for the CPA, which wasn't a lot because I spent a lot of time working on the credit cards, setting up the Google notifications, and then kind of thinking of a strategy on how to get and secure cheap debt in order to use that to build wealth, which I have a strategy that I'm working on that I'll probably talk about in a month from now to see if it works. Besides that, this week I went to the gym pretty much every single day for an hour and a half for weights, and then I ran a lot, and the pool just opened back up, so I've been hitting the pool pretty much every day it's open. I didn't go today, but I did run 5 miles today, and I hit arms for about an hour and 40 minutes, and it was a pretty good workout. So kind of a shorter video, a little bit shorter than usual, because I made that other video earlier this week. Just wanted to start a good habit of uploading every week so that you can kind of see the smaller incremental weekly progress that I make, rather than just me uploading once a month and then there's these big jarring jumps in progress that are kind of unexplained. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or advice or anything, leave it in the comments. I try and look at everything. And if you look in the description of this video, I'll have a bunch of links to other things, like my site where I put stuff in type format. Like the phases are written up there, the projects that I'm working on, some of the goals, the achievements that I've made in the past year, year 0, 1, and 2, I believe, of the project. And anything else that I've mentioned, it's usually on the site, as well as other links to stuff like my Goodreads profile, where I put, I track all the books that I read, which hasn't been a lot recently, but there's a lot from last year that I read, and I put my thoughts about them, and a lot of the books are tied into the project somehow. And then there's a bunch of other links for other stuff, like stuff that I use for the project, to help me be more time productive, like my Notion daily itinerary that I mentioned in there. That's in there as well. If you want to kind of see what my goals are for the day, they're in there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you hopefully next week.